All on the plane.
There you go.
There we go.
Okay, we're good. Thank you. Call the meeting to order. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I know, that's great. Hi, everyone. It's almost done, right? We're good. Smile, 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 smile. Everyone's smiling. Okay, we had executive session. Just to know, we did add one thing into executive session, which was the discussion of the nurses contract negotiation a review. So that is on the agenda for later. So we have no liaisons here, so we'll turn it right over to Mary.
Sure. So we're in the time of year where we're looking at kind of final events for this school year while also simultaneously planning for summer and fall. So first and foremost, we've concluded all of the state and district assessments so that we have current and timely data on our students in a number of areas, and that will help us to inform some of the classroom or team groupings as well as instructional placements right away in the fall for some supports. We also have very early feedback from the state on the most recent Smarter Balanced assessment. So that's our state summative assessment that the various schools completed about May 25th, roughly. And so they've done the initial release of that data, but it's very broad, it's not finalized, so they're kind of cautionary in using it too much. We'll get more final data from the state in the coming weeks, but it gives us some early insight. Right now, I'm very focused on really looking at how we're planning for summer learning. For our administrative team, we're working on some new initiatives together. We're rolling out some adjustments to our teacher evaluation plan and the platform that we use to manage that, as well as looking at our team in terms of how we implement our evaluation practices, and some just common areas that we're looking to grow as an administrative team in terms of our expectations for math instruction, literacy instruction. So those are things we'll be working towards this summer. And also planning for any new programmatic rollouts in the fall. So we know that we're looking to, for example, move Go Math into 7th and 8th grade at the middle school. So we need to make sure that we're working with a vendor to have everything here in a timely fashion and plan now for the professional learning that teachers will need at that level to implement. And we've already kind of started doing that this spring. Also doing some planning around our supports for teacher professional learning next year. We really have to be planning proactively now with consultants who can work with our teachers, as well as I'm partnering with another district, Region 13, to share costs around professional learning. We're right on a cusp where we could work with a number, we're most primarily affiliated, with Learn, but sometimes the person who has the highest level of expertise to help a particular initiative doesn't necessarily work at that RESP. And the rest will, and Learn in particular, has had some reduction in the supports that they can provide to districts because of state budget cuts. So we therefore are on a cusp where we might have to pay a higher rate to work with a different district. So really cost sharing with other districts is a way we can keep those costs down and partner our teachers with teachers from other districts who are facing the same issues. Because we have small numbers of teachers, say in a secondary department, we may only have 4 middle school science teachers as an example. It's a chance to kind of grow their community. So I'm already in the works on planning for that. So a number of things to help us have the smoothest start to the fall as possible, especially when we have some known changes to instruction for our teachers. So, and we're at.
Good. Hi guys.
Hello.
All yours. Whoever wants to go.
So yeah, I'll kick it off. So my report's going to be brief but important. So we're right in the middle of final exams, and as you may know, Thursday's graduation. So and everyone's pretty excited about that.
Everybody.
Everybody.
Yes.
I can go next. I have a nice connection to the high school.
Yes.
Invitation to any of the board members on the 20th, this coming Wednesday. There's going to be the first bell ringer walk at Memorial Elementary School. Our graduating seniors are going to come down and tour our building to be applauded by our current staff and students. Not only is it a great way to acknowledge their accomplishment, but their role models for our younger learners, and we want them to see what they're aspiring to be. So if you're available, that will take place around 12:30.
That's right.
On Wednesday.
And I'm going to jump onto that to say that third grade has done pictures of the whole year as an assembly at the last day for third grade. And Kathy Farron found the current graduating classes PowerPoint of
Really?
500 pictures from third grade.
Wow.
It's a 2008-2009 PowerPoint, and so I'm having a little bit of trouble getting it into Google, but we're hoping that that will be playing on all of our Samsung. So as the kids are going through, they're going to see their third grade images.
Nice. Oh, that's perfect.
And
Love
I guess
it.
on the complete opposite end of that, we had our K celebration today. Our kindergartners performed a concert for the families. And I had the pleasure of wrapping that up, and I made sure I pointed out to families that I wasn't crying. It was just hot in the gym. Sweat. Thank you.
Nice.
Well, next, we had a great week for our field days last week. Monday, and then we ended up pushing our Wednesday one off to Thursday because of some predicted rain. It ended up working out very well. Also, the middle school, they were a gracious host to our fifth graders for the transition visit. Friday afternoon that took place. We had our spelling bee finals today, which went really well. We made the decision to kind of put them back to back instead of having the entire fifth grade go in the gym at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So fourth grade took place at 9:15, fifth grade at 10:30. So we had some heated competition, but it ended up working out very well. Everybody was gracious both in victory and defeat, so it was nice to see. As well as we have our 2 Arts Awards winners taking a trip on the fire truck. So they're getting a ride to school tomorrow morning, which will be exciting. The 2 classes will come out and welcome those 2 winners. And we have our variety show on Wednesday beginning at 9:30.
Got a few things going on over there.
Yeah.
Small but mighty. School's just busy. Like Chris said, we had the 5th graders up last Friday. That was great to see them. Obviously, we're promoting our 8th graders this week, as well as field days and PBIS celebrations. Also anticipating next year, we have a schedule upgrade that's going to be happening. We also have quite a few teachers relocating within the building, just to kind of be more team-oriented model. And things are going pretty well.
Nice. How did Christopher, the young lady for the invention, the Christmas tree, how did that work out for her going out to Michigan?
Oh, very well. She was very appreciative for the opportunity, and the biggest takeaway from that was she's now creating a video. There were a few hundred participants there. There were about 50 from the Tonight Show that were offered, hey, make a video, and we'll see if we can get you on the Tonight Show. So she, I believe by the end of next week was the deadline for that. So they had actually flown the invention out to Michigan. They didn't want it getting beaten up on a plane, so they had to wait for it to fly back, and then they were going to film the video. So if I hear anything, I'll let you know.
Yeah, definitely. That's good. Okay. Questions for the schools? Anybody? Or Mary? Good. Audience of citizens.
Mr. Hine informed me that he would not be able to.
Then you know what? I'm going to take
Packing
this.
his suitcase.
I think he's packing for China.
To discuss this, because it relates to an audience of citizen, and I probably shouldn't be doing this, but I am. There was an email sent by parents, a parent, that went to all the Board of Finance, the town council members, Paul, I think Mary, and Jason and Chris. I think you all, the principals, got it. And it was a good email supporting the Board of Ed and what we do and concerns and some ideas that they had, okay? So that was good. The response by a particular Board of Finance member to this individual was, thank you for your letter. I agree that the Board of Ed should evaluate their options rather than layoffs. Are you aware that we are paying over $200,000 for an administration position that the last person in it said was not needed at all in the system of our size? We need a Board of Education that does their job. So, I bring that up as a concern of obvious communication problems. Last week, the Personnel Committee got together with Mike Rose, the chairman of the Board of Finance, to have a little pre-discussion coming up for teacher negotiations. And something he said kind of made me is where I'm going with this, that he thought it was helpful that he met with just a couple of us. It was like a one-on-one with him in communication. And his thought was maybe a couple of us could do that, to meet with 1 or 2 board members at a time from the Board of Finance to help communicate and not do it as a group to a group, but more personalized. Some of you have blank looks on your faces. You were there. So where I'm going with this is, if you guys like that idea, and if anyone would like to volunteer to help open up communication with, starting with the Board of Finance. I mean, we can only try so hard, but it's more of having a dialogue.
Do we get to pick with whom we speak?
No, we're not picking. No.
I'd be willing to have conversations with them.
Okay.
I mean, you know, different forum. I mean, I have conversations as a member of the RTC.
Yeah.
And I've told them, look, I'm willing to answer any questions you have. I don't know if I can. I may not be able to give you all the answers you want, but you know, I'll try to respond to questions you have. And frankly, I mean, it's whether it's that forum in the RTC or any individual as part of a resident of the town. I think we have that's part of our role.
Of course, yes.
So, but yeah, I mean, I would be willing to have conversations with them and try to forge a understanding.
Yes. That's my goal. Open up this communication so we can move through some issues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perhaps a dialogue in November, December, when we're starting to put the budget together. You know, our budget is a very long budget season. I have to present it to you in January, and typically we don't give it to the town to March 1. But there's not a huge difference between November and December and actually what gets presented to the town on March 1. I mean, you know, the board has the right to adjust it, but you're not making dramatic changes to it. So perhaps a conversation, because around November, December, we're going to know if we're anticipating insurance wild jumps in special ed or potential savings. So that's a nice time to bring them in and say, look, here's where we think we're going to come in here, or here's this year's particular, because it doesn't take too much to, you know, to throw off, gee, we wanted to come in at 1.5 and we ended up coming in 3 because this was the scenario.
I think after we have the meeting here where people can voice what they want and, you know, everybody has their opinion.
Then we can do it with that. Yep.
You know, I
In a
think to
small
go kind
group.
of just collaborate the data
Sure.
and then say, hey, this is, you know, they probably won't be here at the time, but if a couple of them can make it, that'd be fine. But if they don't, then go over that information with them.
I appreciate Mike's sentiment, and I know from conversations I've had with him personally that his view of the entire process has evolved
Quite
through everything, through, you know, especially the last couple months, and I think that's great. And the idea in principle is a solid one, but honestly, the
You're
first
optimistic.
step in that has to be all the mudslinging on social media has to stop, and we need to behave like adults before any conversation can happen.
Like,
you know,
that email in particular.
Yes, well, that was it. I mean, that was an individual email, which is bad enough that it came from, you know, an email address that's affiliated with the town, so it's now the town has spoken
Public
this.
record.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's public record.
Yeah.
But I mean, the vitriol that's spewed all over social media from individuals on the boards, it's not appropriate. It's not appropriate behavior, and that doesn't do any good for any of this. So, I mean, that's the first step.
Okay, we can make that a little preamble to this process.
No, I don't want to speak for anyone. That's my personal thought on it.
I mean, it's going to be a challenge. You can have as many conversations and discussions as you want. When you're having conversations with people whose mindsets are set, right? Then, you know, they'll have to come to the meeting willing to listen and hopefully be open to changing their point of view. And that doesn't mean they have to change their point of view, but they have to be coming to the discussion
Open to understanding the process.
Hey, this is what's going on, and here's all the needs.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be a challenge.
Yes. And I don't think I'm looking to change anyone's opinion on things. It's just the process.
Right.
So they understand why we do what we do. Yeah.
Yes, I'm 100% agree with that. I'm always for more communication, not less. I mean, look, already we have the budget workshops, we have the extra session. We're changing our meeting schedule to allow for
Accommodate,
boards
yes.
to attend, each other's meetings. Sure, I would definitely be open to more communication, of course. It has to be productive. I would hope that would be, that's how it's being approached. I would participate definitely. And coming to the world of public education, just from a community member's viewpoint and then a parent viewpoint, and then coming, and learning more and more, being on this board. You're right. There is so much more to know and learn, and even just by attending these meetings, if people on other boards really wanted to know, and could attend possibly, a significant number of our meetings to get that, just to see, exactly like what you said, why we do the things that we do, how the public education system works, what are the demands placed on us as a district, and all the staff and administrators. There's a lot to know and get familiar with, but you can at least kind of see, it's not this, you're not putting things over on people. It's not this, crazy game. There are real reasons for these things, and I'm all for having more people understand that. And like you said, maybe it doesn't, change people's minds how they feel about unions or whatever the issues are, but just to come to a greater understanding that we're not just here throwing money around, for silly things. Like there are reasons behind it, and also demands being placed on us that we have to meet. So if that can create a better understanding, when it does come time, for budgets.
We don't have to all agree to be constructive.
No.
But understanding the process is so important. And there's just, as we all know, there's so much to know. And you can't possibly understand or know it if you're not putting yourself,
Okay, so I will reach out to Mike Rose, tell them we had this discussion, and put it on their board now to see if they're willing to do that, and go from there.
Is anyone from the board going to be at the meeting tonight?
I don't believe so. No, working, family, funeral, friend, away.
I was going to go to the Board of Finance meeting tonight.
Yes.
But considering there's only 5 of us here.
You're not going anywhere.
But
Okay.
I think it's going to be very beneficial when we go to the second and fourth. I think it'll be illustrative for us to go to those meetings and for them to come to ours.
That was the goal.
Yeah. And we need to follow through on that.
Oh, yeah.
Right. It's on us to.
I plan on. Even if we just go to one a month or
Well,
they only meet once a month, so every other or something.
So even if you go to 1 month.
One a month, you're good.
That'd be very impressive.
Okay, moving on. A motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Mark, second. Nancy, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. No recognitions tonight. Reports. Students are busy with their finals, studying hopefully, right Frank?
Absolutely.
Personnel, we do have some things coming up later in the agenda we'll talk about. Policy curriculum.
Policy and curriculum, we have not met since the last meeting. We did our final meeting already, but we do have a couple things. I believe second reads, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
1, 2.
Yep.
Yes. Okay. Finance, Transportation, Building Grounds.
Has not met. We're obviously going to talk about budget stuff tonight.
Yep. Learn update?
Yes, well, last Thursday was the final Learn meeting for the year, and they always have a breakfast and a little presentation about what's gone on at Learn the past year, and Paul and Chris came with me to the breakfast, and they did an overview of everything that's been going on down there, so it was a good meeting, and the meeting afterwards was anything significant there. I'll also report on the CABE. I went to the CABE, had a workshop on collective bargaining. That was pretty good. I have some information that I'll obviously share once we get started on teacher negotiations. So that was useful to go to.
And we do have dates on that coming up, we'll talk about. Building committee, they did meet, right?
I went to last Thursday's building committee. They have decided not to proceed with having Dawn or anybody from the school develop plans for the orthophosphate system. Colliers has agreed to bring in an independent tester, and they're going to do independent testing over the summer, and then the building committee will decide whether to approach DPH or to install the orthophosphate system. We are under a little bit of a deadline because the state is requiring that the condition be remedied by December 31st. The state has already said that even though we're testing below levels for copper, because we were high, it's not quite low enough. But if we get clean tests, the building committee is going to try to make a very strong case with DPH that we do not need to install a system. Once you install the system, you have it for the lifetime of this building.
Yeah, and that didn't sound like the goal that we wanted. Okay. When are they going to start those independent tests?
They'll be done over the summer.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, communications, all yours. Superintendent report.
So just one quick question. So we could have a list of who we would be able to introduce at graduation. Is anybody planning to attend graduation from the board?
Planning on it. See
You'll
where
be
I
there.
am by
Yep.
Thursday.
My schedule for Thursday is still iffy.
Okay.
So
Whatever
I
you need as of
will,
now.
Planning.
if you connect with me, just so I don't
I'll touch base
introduce,
with them.
yeah, and we do have seats reserved for, but I'll look out for you at the beginning, and if you're there, just give me a wave so I make sure that we introduce.
And it's
Sure.
out back.
I know Lois will be there.
Yep.
I'm not sure about the others.
Just so we make sure that we introduce you. Teacher negotiations, there's a schedule in your packet. What? Sorry, I skipped budget update.
Budget, the fun stuff.
Yeah, the fun stuff. You're not talking about it. It's a new business item coming up. But in your packet this month, there is the list of recommended reductions. Karen is going to hand out to you how we're resolving the line items to get down to minus 670,000. She'll give that out to you later in the agenda. Teacher negotiations. There's a schedule of dates. The dates you should be aware of if you're on the negotiation subcommittee are Thursday, July 12th. That's a meeting with Karen and Mary and I and Zach. We'll look at our written proposals. You can also give Zach some direction on how you want him to proceed.
Is the Board of Finance rep coming to that
They
meeting
will
as
be
well?
invited, but they do not need to come.
But they know about it, and they, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then further down on that chart are the negotiation dates. Tuesday, September 11th, Tuesday, September 18th, Tuesday, October 2, Wednesday, October 10, and Tuesday, October 16th, we're reserving for mediation. And those dates have all been agreed upon by EHEA and our attorney, their attorney, and just make sure that all the board members can do that too. We're going with Tuesday nights. The only Wednesday is because Tuesday the 9th will be a board meeting because Monday, October 8th is Columbus Day.
Columbus Day.
And we'll limit them to 5 to 9 and do kind of a nice power session. Once we go on beyond 9 o'clock, it's not productive.
No.
Though if we're really rolling and people want to keep going for another round, you're certainly welcome to do that. But
Especially the last one.
I think 4 hours is.
So before we get too far, Mark
Even though
and
the
Joanne,
16th
those dates looking good.
I'm this far in advance, or should I?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Even though the 16th is reserved for mediation, if things are going well, we can push, you're allowed to push mediation back. if we
And
need
not
an
go to
extra night.
mediation.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
But let's hope that in 4 sessions, we can get everything done.
Yep.
You have an enrollment report. It's fascinating that if you look at June figures from last year as compared to this year, we're just about the same. We're 1 student higher than last year, and in this time of some towns spiraling downward with enrollment to be practically exactly the same. No, well, not practically exactly,
It's like
but
middle school took the
practically
lead.
the same. Well, the largest classes now are in the middle school, and then 1 at center school.
Do we have a sense of how many kids are not going to be with us from 8th to 9th? Like how decrease the 8th grade classes?
Yeah, we'd be able
Not
to,
coming in?
we'd be able to
Between
look at that.
magnet and
Usually,
BOAG.
yeah, the
Yeah,
biggest,
we'll just,
the traditional pulls are some go to tech school.
Yep.
yeah, usually 15.
Some go to a few go to magnets. VOAC is a big pull for 2 or 3, and then the traditional Mercy and Xavier's.
So it's
Usually we
just-
figure we lose about between the tech schools. It's usually 6 or 7. VOAG is usually 3 or 4 max, and Xavier, it just depends on the group. But usually it's around anywhere from 15 to 22 that.
Yeah. So
choose
about
other possibilities.
15% or something.
But now that the building is completely done, we're hoping that we
Well,
start
that's what
seeing
I'm
a few less.
wondering,
Yep.
yeah, if it's gonna be less, any signs of more kids going to magnets, or parents haven't really?
I think there's a concern, long-term, not just high school. I think more
Well, I mean,
in
across the board, yeah, I'm
elementary.
not just talking high school, but I
You know,
mean
the people
across
that
the
stop
board.
in and have coffee with me, or the superintendent's advisory council, they're concerned that, we're eliminating world languages. Our class sizes are going to be, for 3rd and 5th grade, 26 or 27. I think people are saying, I might need to look for other alternatives. And that's unfortunate that we have families in East Hampton saying that.
Particularly because when a teacher's position is eliminated, the prospects of getting it back are slim to none. Even if we have a good budget season next year, which it's going to be the same people. We're going to have the same result.
But before you go past that, I do want to point out also, not only are we still increasing our regular population, if you look on page 2, total students receiving special education services, last June 220, this June 247. That's a 27 student hike, which is substantial.
However, I think what you'll see next year is some of our costs going down. Rod has initiated some new programming that's going to be very exciting, probably at our August meeting. Rod's going to give you a presentation on some of the programs that we're doing in-house, and I think we're able to budget next year's balance based next year's budget based on what he's doing.
Yeah, good.
Initially, I told you that we were looking at the 8 teachers, plus we needed to find another 200,000, and Rod may have just delivered that to us without further cuts.
Okay.
How was kindergarten registration going?
Not much change.
What are we up to?
I believe last number was around 110, 115. But I
Shut the doors.
anticipate that this time of year, everybody's so busy doing
Yeah.
everything
Yeah.
else that
You have
I
all
think
summer.
the bulk will do it this summer.
Yeah, so we're already up to 110-ish.
Yeah.
Shut the doors.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to turn it over. Presentation. Karen and Jennifer.
This is, Jen is going to give a presentation, and as you'll see in the course of this presentation, Jen has only been with us since last spring. and she's already been recognized as Connecticut's best new food service director in that point of period of time.
Hi everybody, it's a lot more relaxing being here this year than it was last year.
Oh, come on.
A little bit more of a clue what's going on. not fully a clue, but much better this year. So I just want to take you through the basics of what we've been doing this year and then what we're looking forward to for next year. So we are locally operated food service. We're really proud about that. We're not run by Sodexo or Aramark. We run the whole program. One thing I really want to point out is that we serve almost 600 lunches every day. We are the biggest restaurant in town. And we are on track to serve over 100,000 lunches this year. So our sales, we had a 2% increase in average daily participation this year district-wide, and a 4% increase in average daily revenue. The reason that our revenue is higher is we are now Connecticut Healthy Food Certified, and that allows us to get 10 cents extra for every meal that we serve, so that makes a big difference. And then also, Center School and Memorial School are kicking, but they have been doing fabulous. Center School is up 19% and Memorial School is up 11%, and that's really, when I first came in, that was where I wanted to put my focus, because if we get those kids early, we'll have them for their entire school career. So we're really excited about that.
Good job, guys.
I contribute to that as well.
Oh, see? In stereo.
Yeah.
So a couple of really fun things that went on this year. We applied for a grant and received a grant in Memorial School. We got brand new steamers and a new tilt skillet. For those of you who don't know what a tilt skillet is, it's this huge thing that lets us cook a whole bunch of pasta all at once. We can do other things with it too, but the pasta dinner this year at Memorial was so much easier. And we're working on a brand new macaroni and cheese recipe that is so much easier to do that way. And we actually now make Center School's macaroni and cheese, because poor Jackie was having to stand over this huge pot on a stove and try to make macaroni and cheese for 200 people. It was awful. So now we make it for them at Memorial and take it to them. So it's been fantastic. We started our Harvest of the Month program. This is Sally. She works in the middle school. And so this year, every month we have a different produce item that we highlight. We talk about it on the menu. We talk about why you should eat it, why it's good for you. We give out some recipes on it, and we highlight at least once a week something on the menu that has that in it. So this was our, we also try to source locally whenever possible. So our blueberries this year came from Rose's Berry Farm in Glastonbury. And then we also did Connecticut grown apples for the month of October. We also have been able to source regional cucumbers, and regional kale, regional peppers, so we've been trying to source locally as much as possible. And we do some really cool little menu items. Squash was one of our Harvest of the Month, and so we did a squash and apple casserole that shockingly went over fairly well. Wow. Some things don't go over great. We put peas in a salad this year. That did not appeal to the elementary schoolers. We thought we could get that by them. Didn't go over well, but we've been doing we're trying to come up with some really original ways to highlight. We did cranberries in a salad. We're going to do a cranberry sweet and sour sauce next year, so some kind of cool ideas.
So you're always kind of infusing new things?
Always, yeah. And it's going to be, I'll talk about it a little later, but something we want to really expand on next year too. And it's our side items. It's not the main meal that's really affected, but it's kind of that thing that maybe draws them in and gets them a little more excited about the lunch that day. This we're really excited about. We have a pastry chef who works part-time for us in Memorial. She's a mom, and so she works 3 days a week, but her original degree was in pastry school. So about once a month, she makes us homemade whole grain muffins, and we serve them in all our schools except for the high school, who require a bigger muffin size. So we actually were able to incorporate Harvest of the Month here, because when we had cranberries, we did pumpkin cranberry muffins. We do a breakfast for lunch meal, which is a fresh fruit yogurt parfait with a whole grain muffin. So that's been a lot of fun. We're really proud of it. And when she makes it, everybody in the whole school can smell the muffins.
Jen, could you put the central office on your
I'm saying, yeah, we'll stop by that day.
We also started Meatless Monday and Travel Tuesday. So Meatless Monday is obvious. We do a lot of things like our macaroni and cheese. This is at the high school. We did a 3 cheese and grilled tomato cheese sandwich that looks gorgeous, tastes delicious. And then Travel Tuesdays is where we try to add a little bit of international flavor, get the kids to taste some different things. This is actually our taco salad at the high school, and they make their own taco bowls. They take the tortilla, they bake them in the oven, so it's a fresh baked tortilla bowl with all the fresh produce and chicken on it. It's a big hit. And then one of my favorite days ever was Magical Monday at Memorial School. This was actually kudos to Andy. Andy came up with this idea. He was inspired by the pasta dinner that the PTO puts on, and the cafeteria looked so pretty, and it had tablecloths and flowers, and he was like, can we do something like that? So we came up with Magical Monday, and we used it as an opportunity to promote kids kind of learning how to behave in a fancier eating situation and really try to get them to use their manners. So we asked them to come dressed up if they would like. We all dressed up. My staff dressed up in black shirts with white bow ties to serve them. We had a special sorbet dessert for them to have. And the PTO supplied us with tablecloths and flowers, and we decorated with lights, and the kids thought it was the most magical thing they'd ever seen before.
This is
I
cool.
gotta ask, Andy, you want a tux?
No, it's just my black suit with a bow tie.
Okay, I'm looking at the picture, I'm thinking, he's got a tux. Yeah, okay.
And he swept the floor as needed.
Yeah, he did sweep up also, yeah.
Good job.
So we're going to do this now at least twice a year. We'll do it in the fall and we'll do it in the spring. The kids loved it, the parents loved it. It was great. PTO came in and gave out stickers to kids who were using their manners. It was just fantastic. It was truly magical. We also, this is an actual picture of our sandwich. This isn't Photoshop. This is our sandwich. We applied, we entered a contest at the high school. And so this is our fresh chick. The girls at my staff at the high school came up with this all on their own. I told them there was a contest. I told them come up with the best thing they can do that fits within child nutrition regulations. So this is a grilled chicken sandwich with a melted pepper jack, red onion, avocado, tomato, and lettuce with a lime, cilantro ranch sauce over it, all on a ciabatta roll. It looks beautiful. So we haven't heard anything yet, but we hope to know around September. We don't get it. We just get recognition if we win it, and we get our picture in the magazine, which would be pretty awesome. And then this was my award I won. So I was just tooting my own horn a little bit. We have a lot of partnerships. We have UConn interns and St. Joe's interns. I also work with, I'm also the director in East Haddam. We've been working with local farms. We'll continue to do that. We are a member of the Lighthouse Food Purchasing Co-op. But the most important partnership by far is the partnership we have with all you guys. The principals, the assistant principals, the nurses, the social workers and the guidance counselors. We've been able to do amazing things this year, and it's because every one of you guys have been there and worked in partnership with us. So we're really lucky to have that. A lot of directors don't have that, so I'm very lucky. So coming up, we're going to put even more of a focus on fruits and vegetables. So this is where I want to expand the Harvest of the Month program. We want to do some take-home activity pages, some coloring contests, maybe some name-your-own-recipe contests. We want to involve some of the culinary classes in the high school and maybe have them come up with some recipes for us. So we have a lot of creative ideas. I'm going to buzz around in my head over the summer and see what I can come up with. And then we're focusing even more on some creative recipes. We've got, I've been digging out some really cool salad recipes that have some funky things on them, not peas. Some other stuff. We just developed a pizza green bean recipe, which is like tomatoes and oregano and basil all roasted in with the green beans. And sauces, I think I mentioned we're going to do a cranberry sweet and sour sauce. We already do a blueberry and strawberry sauce with our French toast and pancakes. So we're going to keep kind of innovating with that kind of stuff. We're applying for a dairy grant, so hopefully we can get some new smoothie equipment and we can start doing smoothies In Memorial School, we actually tested it out. We do it currently in Center. We want to expand it with them. It went over really well in Memorial. We were very surprised how much the kids liked the smoothies. So
Do they have that at the other schools, middle and high school?
middle and high school do. They kind of wore it out a little bit, and we eased off of it. We've been doing parfaits with them, and that's been going great. I think we'll see what happens next year, and maybe, they already have the equipment, so we'll maybe see what happens and phase it back in. But kids get sick of things really easily, so I think they.
You'll take that used equipment, right?
And then this is something we're doing in the high school. Students want choices, and my daughter is going to college, and so every time I go and visit a college, which has been nonstop, I go into the food service areas and I check out what they're doing and because that's what the high school students want. You know, they want that restaurant experience. So we've been slowly testing out some different types of bars. We do a pasta bar now where they choose their own sauce, choose their own meat. We've done a cheeseburger toppings bar. We're going to do that once a month now for the kids, where we actually have chicken bacon that is allowed by the USDA. We have onion rings that are whole grain breaded that is allowed by the USDA. So we'll be able to do that on a cheeseburger. We've been doing a burrito bowl bar and a taco bar, and we're going to add a baked potato bar as well.
Do we do any gluten-free stuff for kids?
We don't have any gluten-free kids who choose to eat with us. So if they ever do, I have gluten-free options I can give them, but we don't have any that currently eat with us. And then we have to follow very strict sodium restrictions, which is why a lot of food directors we're all really struggling to get kids to participate, because with no salt, it doesn't taste very good. So we started experimenting this year with some custom spice mixes, and it went over really, really well. We did like an American spice and an Italian spice, so we're going to be making our own Asian spice mix, so we can use these things instead of the sodium. Like I said, we're working on a macaroni and cheese recipe. We just tested out a new baked bean recipe, and we're going to do some funky stuff with roasted vegetables. And then we just tested a new pizza crust that we're now using in all the schools that has cheese baked into the crust, and went over fantastically. It's delicious, so we're going to be using that. And eventually, what I would love to do is come up with our own signature pasta sauces. So it's something I'm tasking my managers with this year, to kind of compete between themselves and see if they can come up with the best signature sauce. And then the last thing is social media. I want to get up our own Facebook page for food services. And what I'd really like to do with this too is not just, I want to do a ton of pictures of the kids in the schools and what we're serving, and then I also want to do recipes and nutrition facts, kind of stuff that will maybe draw them in, make us a little bit different from the everyday ordinary Facebook.
I think it's good for parents to know, keep them.
Yeah.
What's my kid eating in school?
Yeah, exactly. And we're targeting parents first. Eventually we'll go Instagram to target the kids, but I think we want to get the parents up and running first, and then I was told to go slowly with this, so I'm not good at going slowly, but I'm trying. And that's it. Thank you guys very much.
I'm going to move past caramel bullseyes as my food of choice now.
Yeah.
You should go to lunch at a different school every day.
I know. Mary and I are going to start visiting cafeterias
I
for
was
lunch.
just thinking I might make some just surprise visits during lunch.
Please do. We would love it.
Okay, so the healthy food certification.
Can I just ask a question on this?
Yes.
Sure.
Yes.
Is it date? I mean, this is the first time I've ever seen this, so will comply with the nutrition standards during the period of July 1, 17 through June 30th, 18? Those are the right dates? So we're talking about this past year, or we're talking about next year?
Yeah, it should be for next year.
Okay, July 1, 18 to June 30, 19.
Yeah, that's like before, like,
Okay.
We didn't do this already?
We do it every year.
We didn't do it already?
No. Okay, so do we need to read it? No. Or don't read it. Okay. So then, you've read it. We've heard what great work they're doing with help from all the schools. That was nice to mention, but again, thank you guys, all you, for that cooperation. So, do we have a motion to approve the healthy food certification as written?
I'll make a motion to approve the healthy food certification as written pursuant to section 10-215F of the CGS.
With the date modification.
With the date
as
modification of July
Yeah.
1st, 2018 through June 30th, 2019.
Second?
Second.
Mark. Discussion, questions? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great job, as always.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Justin.
Okay, unfinished business. We have our 2 policies. So I'll turn over to Jeff. The first one is the student privacy
Which one is first?
Survey?
survey of students.
Yeah.
So as second read here,
Yep.
any
Other questions?
changes, modifications, anything from previous?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm trying to understand this. The top of this, the second page, prior to administrating a survey, Board of Ed will must approve all those that have been received by the superintendent. So do surveys come from outside groups into our district, and then we make a decision to put them into use? Is that how it works?
So we're very judicious about surveys that we allow. Typically, something like this would now be in place for if the Prevention Partnership wanted to do a survey of students. What we do now is we do make them available to parents to view if they wish to come in and view them. But for certain surveys now, we would ask that the board review them.
Okay, so my understanding is
You're not going to be overwhelmed with
well,
surveys.
I'm not worried about
Yeah.
that. I'm just trying to understand the process, that the surveys are coming from entities outside of East Hampton, some group, whether it's.
Yeah,
it could
so
be
typically it would be, the one that would fall into this category is the Prevention Partnership, where they're asking students about alcohol habits and things like that. And so what we would do is we would share that with you in advance.
Okay, so so you get a survey that touches on these types of characteristics, and you'd have them approved by the board.
Yeah.
Before we would send
Like
them out to
internal
our population.
surveys,
Yeah.
like if the high school wanted to do a survey of something.
Yep.
They could. Yeah, but if it fits in that, it would come here first. Yeah.
Thank you, that clarifies it for me.
Okay, anything else you want to add on that? Nothing? Okay. Second one was?
Second one.
Hold on, this one.
Animals.
Animals in the class.
Tiny horses. We omitted the tiny horses.
No, that's part of the package. That's another agenda item.
Oh, that's that. Gotcha. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was talking about tiny horses.
Yeah, I know. I don't want to stop you there.
When we mentioned last time that we cut out a lot of what was suggested for this.
This just gives the principals a little bit of leeway in determining the types of animals that would come in. Now, currently we don't have students and families requesting service animals.
Okay.
However, other schools have had to deal with it,
Yeah.
so you do need a policy. It's not a required policy, it is just a wise.
Suggested from Kate. And this is, it's intentionally, so it allows a little structure to respond.
All new. Okay. So then, without any questions, how about we bundle motion to approve policy 6162.51 and 6163.32 as presented?
So
Mark, second?
Second.
Jeff said it first.
Oh.
Any other comments, questions? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Okay.
That's right, you have to vote for anything, Chris.
Huh?
You have to vote tonight.
Have to
It's
vote?
the numbers.
Yes. Well, if you say no, that's fine.
That's
vote. Budget approval.
2 documents for you.
Yes.
Karen's going to pass out a document for you.
She did.
Oh, great, thank you,
She
Karen.
did.
The laminated words.
Yes.
And you have a copy from me about the list of reductions that I'm recommending.
And which one is that?
The one that has a yellow at the
This one,
top?
yeah.
Yes, it's a 2-page. So on the one with the purple heading, Karen has worked her magic to show you exactly how the $670,000 cut takes place throughout our budget. Like I've been saying from the beginning, it does require 8 positions to be eliminated. On the list you have, there's 9, but keep in mind that the high school, middle school health teacher, it ends up being at the high school. That teacher stays at the middle school full-time. And then special ed teacher at the bottom, that was already cut out as part of the original budget.
So it's 10.
So it's 8, actually. Because the high school, middle school health teacher, we're shifting to full-time middle school, especially with the cut of world language there. Because we don't want 6th graders to have too many study halls. So we're picking up that the health teacher will be full-time at the middle school, so the high school loses him. So it's technically not a reduction of a staff member, it's kind of a repositioning of a staff member.
Okay.
But it is a reduction of a person at the high school.
Correct. He was about 0.4 at the high school, or 0.6 at the high school and 0.4 at the middle school. He'll be full-time at the middle school now.
And who has this position?
His name is Kevin Doherty.
Where? Custodian reduction.
Mm-hmm.
Where is that impacting, or how are they handling that change?
Right now, we're using some subs to fill as necessary, and they're reassigning positions. We do have some retirements, and so as things get settled, there'll be a lot of changes of custodial responsibilities over the summer. We'll let Dawn and Karen work that out with the principals.
Then we have one retiring,
We have 1 retiring.
so we're not replacing.
You have 1 retiring and 1 that left mid-year. We'll replace one of them.
Anything, Karen, you want to point out on this?
The way I have this purple sheet laid out is the first column is the most recent anticipated expenditures for this year. So you might more or less call them the actuals for the 17-18 year. What you were, and then the second column is what you adopted at the end of February. The bold third column is to accomplish Paul's recommendations and the changes that have happened year to date, or in order to get to the 670,000 reductions. It's compared to the next 2 columns, compared to what we're actually spending this year, and then the final column is the change that's needed to accomplish the 670,000 reduction. So if I just summarize them, the staffing Paul has provided you. Medical insurance did not go down quite as much as we had been originally led to believe. And then you would think it would go down further with these reductions, but we had some folks come on more so than what we had initially planned. As you go down, you'll see that there's a reduction in tuition, and pupil transportation with an increase in professional technical services, because the programs that Paul and Rod are expanding internally will not be staffed by East Hampton employees. They will be outside services in a variety of different ways that Rod will provide details on, but we do have have one contract we signed and one that he's had agreed to for tonight. So I think his numbers are fairly solid.
Unfortunately.
And then the other things are just minor updates to the most recent knowledge we have of these expenditures. With the curriculum investments down to near, almost down 90% of the way down, we reduced the science supplies by 12,000, and this line will be rolled into textbooks so that all these spending authorities will have to be reviewed through the Director of Curriculum's office as a textbook sort of thing. And that'll permit the authority of the approvals to run through their office.
So how much are we putting in here for science equipment? Because we were looking.
It's really science supplies.
Supplies, yeah.
You're putting in about 18,000 instead of the original 30,000.
Okay. And that's under which column? The
Curriculum
other-
investments
okay.
down at the bottom.
Okay.
We're also hopeful that Rod has built into this program, some of these new programs, the opportunity for other students from out of district to join us. And we've also agreed in one case of how much that income would be if we can find students. And he's letting local districts around us know of these potential opportunities. So I assume the $25,000 additional income. We already have one student from Portland and have that's still ongoing for next year. So I've shown those down at the very bottom as offset income.
Questions? Anybody? Okay, so under that then,
Any discussion on this then?
oh yeah, I did.
Okay.
Go ahead. Let it out, don't censor it, go ahead.
Just trying to get into it. Given the recent history of how we've dealt with these budget cuts, because we've had cuts every year, compared to the expenses, they have been elimination of positions primarily through attrition. That's been the big hit every year, right? So we haven't, had to do any. We ducked the one last year, having to actually fire people, and we haven't had to do big layoffs. But the teaching positions are gone. And it's like I mentioned before. Those aren't coming back. Getting a teaching position added back into the budget is, I can't imagine anything more difficult in this climate. And we have a lot to cut, right, with the budget we've been presented. But I don't think we can go to that well again. Not to this extent. 8 positions is insane. Your concern about parents taking their kids elsewhere is legitimate.
Yeah,
I'm having that discussion about my children. I've got one chance to educate my children. And this is impactful. there is nothing that we can pay for that is going to have a more significant impact on those kids than the people who are in the classroom teaching them. And to take that direction now, I can't support that idea. I mean, here's the unpopular bit. I would advocate for elimination of sports at the high school and middle school level completely before this. And I understand that there's a potential that we may alienate some parents by doing that, but I think that eliminating the teachers is also alienating parents. And I also think that reinstating those programs is going to be a lot easier than reinstating teachers and undoing what has happened with the education of these kids that have missed out. You know, I mean, how does a teacher really differentiate with a class of 30, 35 kids, you know, with no parents? Because those are gone. Those went a couple years ago. Those, you know, so we don't have those anymore. So this can't be the solution. I mean, the smaller numbers, but the positive steps, and this is, you know, internal conflict for me, but the curricular stuff that I fully support on principle. I can't justify myself spending $96,000 on expanding programs when the people who are delivering those programs are taken out of the classroom. You know, Go Math has done really well, and the numbers are doing really, I mean, it's very positive. Do we need to push that into the next grade? I don't know. I don't know if that's worth it when they're, you know, the numbers of the teachers getting eliminated. I think we need to reevaluate this thing. And it's a horrible situation to have to even have the conversation. And I don't envy your position for having to come up with any of this stuff because it's been forced upon you. But it's the easiest way to get the numbers down, but I don't think it's the best. And I personally can't support it. I mean, it's not obviously my call. We all get to have a voice in this thing. But I think it's important to discuss what other options we have, even if they're ugly.
So we have a budget that was approved based on all those numbers and all those nasty facts that we work off of. So to get that, this is what the recommendation is, and that's what was presented to the town for referendum. So,
well, no. The number was presented to the town for referendum. We didn't, the Board of Finance said, we're going to hack you off the knees, now vote on it.
Yeah.
This is our response to that.
okay.
We did not say, this is what we can do officially. The board did, you know, we didn't, you know,
No.
the
It hasn't been
implication, you know, was expressed that this would mean.
It hasn't been any secret that this is what the plan is.
Yeah. But that doesn't mean we have to follow through on that.
Okay. Going off of his point, anyone else?
I mean, I understand what you're saying. I'm gonna, like, the idea of completely eliminating all sports to me I could not even begin to fathom that.
Oh, I hate it. Don't get me wrong.
No,
I hate it.
Because there have to be sports and music.
Only from the standpoint of, And look, I don't know how you judge, and I just kind of did the math for, which one of the classes. 27 students in class, 22 students in a class. That's what one of the reductions is going to cost in whichever school it is, 5th grade or whatever it is. Clearly, the impact of having 22 students versus 27 is more challenging for the students, for the instructor, difficult situation. I don't know how you balance that to saying, I'm going to take what I view as an integral part of the learning process of participating in sports and say, all right, we're gonna make a decision that we do away with that, and I can't remember exactly, partly is my age, but my middle child, he was in a larger class. Their whole class that year had a larger class. I want to say they had in the 25, 26, 27 students in the class. Not good by any means, but they got through it somehow. Now, I don't know, maybe that there was additional support staff then, which would have been back in, the 09, 08 timeframe, that helped the teacher deal with having that many students that just doesn't exist today. So, and I don't know the answer to that.
Well, there's something I should have, I don't mean to interrupt, something I should have articulated previously is, this isn't just in response to this year, this is also in anticipation of next year. We're looking at the same boards, the same people sitting on the same boards, and potentially the same response next year. So I'm kind of grappling with, trying to mitigate the overall impact of 2 years of this. I have no reason personally, maybe I'm being just pessimistic, but I have no reason to believe that if we put this into effect, we wouldn't be looking at what is another 6 positions eliminated next year. I don't see how, I don't see this, what the environment is going in the other direction.
Just devil's advocate on that point, if, say we went with what you're saying, say we just get rid of all the sports and we save these positions.
There would still be the cut next year.
Then next year there's that cut.
Right, but then you have 6 as opposed to 14. That's what I'm looking at with that. It's a cumulative impact of multiple years. And it's in the future, so it's all speculation, but there has been nothing that says to me that things are going any other direction.
And that's a fair observation, because I agree with you. Next year, it's the same makeup of the Board of Finance, or likely to be the same makeup of the Board of Finance. At least there's no election intervening right now.
And the same
there could still be changes, but you can't count on that.
Yeah.
So the question, again, just as a food for thought, how much does all the sports programs in the schools, between the middle school and the high school,
we have that number? Yeah, because we've talked about this before. Karen?
The Board of Ed's portion, both schools added together, is $314,000.
That's in addition to what we collect for pay for play. The town portion is
the net cost.
So it's not fixing everything.
No.
We still need to deal with other bits of this.
Yeah. Hold on.
Yeah, sure. So, right now, this represents 5% of your teaching staff. And it's curious that we looked at enrollment and we're completely the same. If you were 5% of the students down or 10% of the students down, we'd say, well, these aren't great cuts, but our class sizes are not going to change dramatically. We are going to have as many students taught by 8 less people. It's 15 less sections at the high school. It's these are
that's huge. That bit
cuts.
about the electives at the high school is huge.
Yeah. Now, I've been fairly public from the get-go, including the River East and in my updates, that were we to get any money back from the town, it would go towards the 3rd grade teacher and the 5th grade teacher, because I feel like the class sizes at that level are the most important to do. And then the next restoration would be of the high school English.
Yeah.
So if it was possible to get 3 people back. Now keep in mind, you know, the salaries for beginning teachers are roughly, with a master's degree, about $64,000. We always figure about $8,000 to $16,000 for benefits, so it's roughly about $80,000. So that requires the town to consider, of that $700,000, $240,000 coming back. Now, I know that there's a concern that if there is a special appropriation from that $700,000, then our $30 million budget becomes, you know, $250,000 higher. And I think that that's what is concerning a lot of people. So, you know, $240,000 is about another 0.6%. So instead of 1.5%, it's 2.1%. Our base for next year is a little bit higher. But, you know, what I'd like the town to consider, and maybe we can start promoting this, is instead of making a special appropriation, have the town cover some of our expenses, particularly in electricity, which is not uncommon in certain towns. For 1 year, cover the cost of our $430,000 electricity, pay about $240,000 of that, and then we would shift that money into personnel. So it doesn't require a special appropriation, it doesn't require our budget to go higher, which I think is the big concern right now. It would actually affect the town budget because they'd be picking up an additional $240,000. It's only a 1-year solution. I'm not suggesting that they keep paying $240,000 of our electricity. So next year when we present the budget, you'd see this strange leap in electricity, because right now we would take the money out of electricity, move it into personnel. But I think for people who are looking for a solution, I'd like to offer that as a solution on, you know, how do we do this $700,000 without the Board of Ed budget necessarily going up? Because this is what the voters voted on, this particular $30.5 million. So it doesn't change the bottom line of the budget. It is only a 1-year solution, because if we wanted those 3 positions in next year, I'd have to show an appropriate growth. But I'm willing to live year to year at this point if we can restore three teaching positions.
Yeah.
So, time frame in us approving this process.
I think you need to approve a budget tonight, because we need to finish scheduling buildings. I'm not sure when the town is going to vote on the next round, but we have a budget, and we need to start making plans. So I'm not trying to push up against the wall.
So what I'm saying
but it
is,
would not be appropriate for us to wait until August to approve a budget. You can always make changes to the budget.
okay, so we can approve this as is.
And then you could give the superintendent and business manager the authorization to make line item changes that we would bring to you in August or September, should that money become available.
So then we could make that shift. So now, going on what Paul said, let's open that up. What do you guys think about that? Having the town shift some of the ECS money that they are going to receive.
I mean, that was always the question, is if we got the money, how would it come to us? You
So
know,
if
that
we say,
seems like
you take on 240 of our electricity, that way our bottom line doesn't change and we can make that transfer.
Right, it's just them paying a bill and
Mark, go ahead, Mark.
Well, it can just be, it can just be appropriated. I mean, there's a mechanism.
But that changes the bottom line that was voted on.
For next year.
yeah.
No, for this year that was voted on. If they're making appropriation of an additional 240,000, our approved budget goes up.
Yeah. What I was saying is.
Why?
Because the town voted on it was approved. Referendum.
In order for us to spend money on something different, we have to
Get an
get rid of.
appropriation.
Yeah, that was the appropriation does.
So if they appropriate $240,000 on top of our approved budget, That changes our bottom line. Then goes up that 0.6 whatever percent.
And maybe the town budget will pass.
Well, that's always an option. Make an additional appropriation and change things, or do this transfer in these monies. Go ahead,
Well,
Mark.
I mean, it certainly is a positive approach that helps solve some challenging problems. And there's no harm in going to the Board of Finance with this as a proposal. I'll not hold my breath.
Come on, you were supposed to say the opposite of that.
You know,
Really? You don't see this as a positive?
If they want a budget
well,
pass.
I'm just looking at it from a practical standpoint. And you look at the individuals, and I'm just looking at the Board of Finance, never mind the council.
Yeah.
Because if it doesn't get past the Board of Finance, it doesn't matter whether the council is going to support it. I don't see how we get to a 4-3 the other way. I just don't know which one of the 4 people that I think would be, I see one of the 5 Republicans who would be potentially amenable to it. I'm not sure which of the other 4 would be willing to do that. As a practical matter, I just don't see it.
What are they thinking they need to get a budget passed? This would pass a budget. Otherwise,
It may.
I think it really could.
Yeah.
I mean, it certainly stands a better chance than right now.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Because if they do nothing,
ultimately,
it's
what
gonna go
they're,
down.
what they're saying is that this is the hill they want to die on. This is, because that's the reality. I mean, people have expressed their opinions about it.
Yeah.
And the likely first comeback would be, well, the turnout was so low. And I'm not trying to defend it. I'm just,
Which makes the margin that much wider in percentage.
Yeah.
One of
They
the,
would be saying that if it went the other way.
I was going to, but I was planning on going to the Board of Finance meeting, which I mentioned to you guys. And what I wanted to convey to them, and I actually said this last Thursday in a different meeting, is that they need to be aware of the town has sent a message. Right? Now, whether you want to argue how many of the people who actually voted, the people who went and voted sent the message. Right? And you're fooling yourself if you think it's any other message.
Right.
I
They
mean,
don't,
I had a
they don't,
I had
they
a
don't want to hear
comment.
messages that they don't agree with.
I had a comment. I mean, when you only lose by, I don't know what it was, 7 votes or something the first
That's
time,
right.
and then it's 170 the second.
Yeah.
You can't pretend that it's not what it is.
Yeah.
And when I said that the other night, I got pushback that said, well, there's always these people who vote no, and they really want the number to be lower. And I'm like, are you kidding me? If the people have always voted no, all right, well, the people who voted no the first time voted no the second time, there was no change. Where did the 170 come from? So I just think that there's a,
They don't want to see it.
it goes back to what I said earlier. They have a viewpoint, and I'm not. They're entitled to their viewpoint, whether I agree with it or whether any of us agree with it in this room. They're entitled to their viewpoint. Their viewpoint has merits from the standpoint of they are trying to protect the increase in taxes, right, and limit that to the extent that they can limit that.
Yeah.
That's laudable. That point of view is laudable. The question becomes at what cost, and then you get into the disagreements of, what value you associate with certain different things, right? So I think that there's no harm in going to the Board of Finance, whether it's through their chairman or through Jeff or however, and floating that as a possibility. And, could then there be some a presentation in the sense of, hey, we're trying to reach out to the people who voted on the budget because, again, whether they necessarily believe this or not, because we feel that, we've gotten the message, okay? We accept what the message is, and we're trying to respond to that in some manner in order to get a budget passed. I'm not sure that they're, how successful that effort would be. Like I said, I'm not optimistic because I think there's a mindset that's really set in stone, and I don't know if they have an urgency to pass the budget right now because the council set a temporary notice. So
They may not.
Maybe they don't have an urgency to pass the budget.
So
now, to me, that's wrong.
Right.
Because
I'm not doing that.
You don't want to drag it out, no.
Yeah.
It's one of the things I felt when I was on the Board of Finance. We have an our primary job is to pass a budget for the town.
Yes.
Create a budget and pass it.
We should be working as hard as we can to pass a budget, and until we do so, then we shouldn't stop. And so I think that's a priority, but I'm no longer on the Board of Finance. So, what I think really doesn't matter at this point in that context.
No, but it makes sense. Nancy, anything?
Yeah, I mean, when we look at the first year of bifurcation, and I actually have the numbers on my phone, but I don't have them exactly in my head. But I do believe that, both budgets passed, and they passed almost identically. Almost.
It was close, yeah.
Right? Which says to me, people who are voting yes on this budget voted yes on this budget, pretty much, for the most part, right? Now we look at this year. Okay. Right before the first referendum, we heard about the additional ACS money, right? In the whole budget process, the reasoning for the $670,000 reduction was the fact that we didn't get as much ACS funding, right? Okay, whether you agreed with it or not, that was a reason, and there you go. So days before, to hear this news, the people who would normally say yes, yes, and want, the town as a whole to move forward, heard this. They're waiting for something. Are we gonna vote? Do we vote? It doesn't stop. What happens? No news at all from the town. Nothing. No communication. I guess we're voting, so everybody goes and votes. People are all over the place. People I know, kids in the schools who don't want the reductions, voted no because they didn't know what to do in the education budget. People are all over the place. It wasn't
a clear cut that it had.
Yeah, not really. Although you see the results. So you see the results, right? Education passed by a good margin. Town, tiny difference. Okay, now we see what comes next. Board of Finance, you're not getting money. Nope, you're not getting it to save the teaching positions, right? That's all really people that ask for. Can we just save part of and people on the boards themselves, the minority party argued it too. Let's split it up. Barbara Moore said that. Let's split it up, but save some, give some back to the taxpayer, just enough to save a few teaching positions. It would have been a yes on the town, I think.
Yeah.
Reading, the tea leaves that I see.
Yeah.
That didn't happen. Resounding no by a huge margin now.
Right.
Smaller group, but a huge margin. That's what you're looking at. So really, I think Mark is right. You can only interpret it one way. Again, going back to the first year of bifurcation, the people who voted that education budget in also voted the town's budget in, and we can't forget that. They are yes voters. They're not yes, no voters. They're not. They're just not. The results do not bear that. And what we're seeing is what's happening with the lack of communication, the uncertainty, the not knowing, and then the flat out, oh, what you're not going to save those teachers, and the ECS money, none of it is coming back to the schools. Well, you see the result.
Well, the irony is that.
So it is a strong message.
Yeah.
I think it's getting clearer, and I don't know what they'll
Very
do,
much
but
so.
this is a creative solution
So how do we move this forward?
to keep the base where it is, because I do understand too, of course, once you increase your budget now, the next year, a 1% increase is on a bigger number, so that should be noted too.
Yes.
That having this creative solution, paying the electricity bill, in other words, with that money, instead of adding it to the budget, now prevents.
But why go,
bigger
I mean,
bills.
so it's shuffling money, it's kind of cooking the books a little bit, but that's
Yeah.
fine. But why stop with just paying half our electricity bill? We've got electricity at 425 grand and motor oil at 146. That's,
Well,
that's
I
the
think
conversation.
the response that I would have to that is you're trying to work out an arrangement with the other board that has not given the indication from a majority standpoint, wanting to do anything.
right.
So, how do you compromise potentially and say, because again, I will never say absolutely, but if we were to go to them and say, hey, pick up 600,000 or 500,000 of our costs,
Yeah, it's gonna be
that's not going to, I can't see them ever agree to that. I mean, I'm not optimistic about 240.
Right, but these are also the folks that we brought a solid budget to, and they cut it off completely beyond anyone's expectation. So why would they not have the same reaction to any solution we bring now?
I'm not expecting.
And again, it goes back to, because maybe the budget will pass if they do something.
The
to
budget will
help
pass
us.
when people are satisfied, I think,
It's
that
not going to.
there's support.
And I think
This
push us.
is when the bifurcation was brought to us, when they came into this room and tried to sell us on bifurcation, the phrase that was used,
Told us
democracy, a little more democracy is a good thing.
A little more
right?
clarification as to what people don't
And
like.
this is,
That was
and then
the
we
story.
passed this, right, as a town. So these tools were given to the town. The town is now using those tools to express their opinion, and it's...
And as stated, they're not listening to those.
Right,
Don't
despite
like
the
the
fact that they stood in front of
opinions
and said the
of
word.
things
So, yeah, I mean, it's thick with irony, but they may not want to change their minds on this, but I'm not certain that the town is going to allow that to happen. To just say, oh, okay, that's fine, we'll take all the cuts. I'm not certain the town's going to be.
I can't tell you exactly what their strategy is, because I don't know what it is.
Mhm.
I'm not, their strategy could be, let's not rush. Maybe we'll set another referendum sometime in August, and the timing of that will be such that this strong contingent of no voters that were so passionate are all on vacation with their kids. Yeah. Right? So we get an even lower turnout, but a lot of these people from what I understand, there's a lot of conversation on Facebook and whatever social media there is. I don't have any idea about that because I don't know the Facebook page, so I'm clueless in that regard. But so all those people who are passionately, saying no until they give our education system more money, we're going to vote no, we're going to vote no, we're going to vote no. Well, so maybe their strategy is kind of wait them out a little bit and take advantage of the fact that something's going on in the summer with them. And they can't muster that support. Who knows?
I'm not certain there's a strategy at all. I think it may be education.
There may not.
Bam, bam.
Well, the answer may be they just don't know what to do. They don't have a solution. But
So, do we agree then that we pursue making this offer type discussion with them and open up that communication?
Sure, I mean, doesn't.
If the concern is about the appropriation process and that's being used as a reason to not route any of this money in, then absolutely. I don't think that we sell ourselves short. I don't think we go in with a compromise, go in with an idea.
Yeah.
You know, and let them chop it down.
Okay, I see that point. Sound good?
Well, I'm always more of a propose what you want, stick to it approach.
Okay.
You know, it's like, okay, the idea of let's say this because we want to
end up here,
negotiate
Well,
here.
I mean, if we look into to fund 3 teachers, and what does that cost?
Yeah.
Go in with that.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I would like to go in with, you know, find $600,000 to fund for us.
Yeah.
And stick with that, and that would be great. You know.
That's.
And then,
That's
as
heavy.
it's been stated, we have to realize what we're dealing with here.
Right,
Yeah.
but I'm going to let
That's
somebody
excessive.
else let me know what they're willing to do on that, because that 600 is what I want, and I get your approach, and maybe I just don't have the
So
Constitution to actually stand up
how
and
should
defend myself.
we-
But you know, it's
you
know, I
or I.
wait.
That's a style.
We already did, but,
That's
yeah.
a style of negotiating.
Yeah.
I'm maybe unique in that.
I mean, do you call Jeff and say we had this discussion, or do I?
It's like to make it a drop of water out of stone, you know, when you're looking for.
Why don't, Karen and I
Well,
can
we're just
call Jeff.
discussing how we're gonna pursue this, who's gonna do what.
Karen and I can call Jeff tomorrow and give him
I think
Okay.
we
Our
can sit down, I
brainstorm.
think with Jeff and Mike Rose.
Yeah.
Swing it by him on a one-to-one personal conversation.
That
as
might
opposed
work
to- I don't
to
want him
start.
to get a letter and say, oh, what's this? Where did this
Yeah,
come from?
yeah.
Let's make it personal.
No, I think the conversation, it should be a conversation. I don't think it should be in the
Yeah,
form of
yeah.
a letter that makes
Yeah.
it sound like.
Yeah.
But I don't want him hearing
Yeah.
it from Jeff. It should come from, hey, here's an idea
Yeah.
we have. You know, we were talking the other
So maybe
day,
if
let's
you guys
continue
get a
the
hold of Jeff.
discussion.
Sure.
And include Mike in it. And
Yeah, I think we have to include Mike in it.
So-
Because he's,
Of course, they probably would vote on something. So.
I do have a question.
Let's revisit this in a week.
You have a question?
So, does $240,000, which is a number, can be something slightly different, but those 3 positions you identified as your highest want to get back in the budget.
Okay.
Does 240 get us there?
Yes.
that's what I said, like, what is the number that gets us those 3 positions, yeah?
So in the meantime, we need to approve.
So, I'd like to make a motion to approve the budget recommendation as amended based on our past referendum amount and the allocation of $30,499,668 as presented this evening.
Okay, second. Nancy, okay. Just give me the book. So what I'd like to do is if we approve this so they can move, end of year's coming up, get things going, and we try and work with the Board of Finance and come up with a solution to address your strong concern, and all of ours, but will that work for you?
To
Going through
approve
these
this,
steps? Yes.
I'm not going to approve this,
Okay.
but I got 1 vote.
But
You don't need to have a unanimous vote.
No, I know.
You know, I mean, I'm not going to be offended if that's the way it plays out.
Yeah.
You know, that's
Okay. That's
fine.
fine. Anyone else, comments, thoughts?
No, I understand we have to move forward. And
Yeah,
sadly,
we need a budget, yeah.
Okay.
Unfortunately, the state, their decision is creating havoc with our decisions. And it'd be nice if they would have given us the money before the budget passed.
Okay, so the motion was to approve this budget as presented. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Nope, understood. Thank you. And then with the direction add to that Paul and Karen will pursue conversations on the town side. Okay. Fun stuff.
Well, now what?
I don't like the fun stuff. Yeah, the unfun. So we have that. Now, along with that, item 12.2, we need a motion to authorize the superintendent of schools to make any necessary end of year financial transactions coming up for the end of the month.
And just to be clear, financial transactions within line items?
Yes.
That's what we're talking about? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is an annual one.
Yeah, I expect.
Yeah.
Just wanted to- Have my
Financial
thoughts.
transfers. I said transactions, financial
Transfers.
transfers. Yeah, that's what I meant. So is there a motion there?
So,
Mark,
I'll second.
Jeff, second discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Technology purchases.
So in your packets are two quotes from Rich Fielding for the teacher laptops and the student Chromebooks. Now, obviously, the town doesn't have a budget yet, but if they do get a budget over the summer, your meeting's not till August, so we're asking you to just pre-approve these. Keeping in mind that the town's approval process has changed, and instead of us having to go to the town council and Board of Finance for approval, the Board of Ed now gets to approve these purchases. So what we're asking is if a budget passes, because we'd really like to have the Chromebooks for the beginning of school, so if a budget does pass sometime in August or July or whenever, we'd give Rich the authority to act on these two quotes. And they're both state.
What's the lead time, roughly?
Even if there's a July approval, I'm not sure we'll have the Chromebooks for the first day of school.
Okay. So
Oh, really, it's that long?
Yeah.
you're talking like.
By the time we get them and get, Irene sets up all the Chromebooks, and it's a lot of work. You know, we just don't open a Chromebook box and hand it to a kid. It requires a little bit.
And all these numbers fall in line with what was budgeted or
Yep, this
in
is
the
all
capital.
currently in capital.
Yes.
Now, obviously, if capital has changed, we'd have to adjust this, but assuming that a budget is passed, this is just your pre-approval as written.
Okay. So do we have a motion to pre-approve these quotes?
So moved.
Joanne, second.
Second.
Mark, discussion. All those in favor? Aye. We have a tentative agreement between the Board of Education and the MUI, our school nurses. This is what was discussed, reviewed in executive session, one item. You have it before you, so we are looking for a motion to approve that agreement as presented.
So moved.
Mark, second. Nancy. Discussion on these. This. Very good. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good, good. Then also passed out to us, we have the non-affiliated personnel compensation sheets, one page.
This one?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Most of them are a 2.5 increase unless there were other agreements that have been negotiated in the past.
And again, this is a yearly process that's done with the superintendents, and then it comes to the board. So any questions for Paul on any of this?
Because normally it's done in personnel meeting before it comes to the board.
Yeah.
That's been years past.
Was there an increase from this present year over the year before?
Was there an increase?
Yeah,
Oh, you
it
mean
was
like
last year.
last year?
Or
Yeah.
is that a,
Yeah, I don't know if you have that number offhand. Last year?
I didn't hear what the question was.
Last
These
year's
numbers
increase.
last
Was
year.
last
Was there an
year's
increase?
between last year and this year? Or
There was an increase, yes.
Yeah.
small, was it the same?
She's checking right now.
Oh.
While she's looking at that, just a language clarification.
Yep.
High school athletic supervisor, is that what I know as the athletic director?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
When was you were explaining that before? When was that whole agreement put into place?
That's a couple years old now. that it would be a 40% of the bachelor's degree, then 60% of the bachelor's degree, then 80% of the bachelor's degree, then it would top out at 100% of the bachelor's degree.
Does he have a bachelor's degree?
Yes.
And he works, it's a full-time position?
We absolutely consider it a full-time position.
Last year's increases ranged from 2.75% for myself and the facilities director, as that was in line with the administrator group, and 2.25 for most of the other positions, except for the athletic supervisor. And a reason to look at it a little differently is last year, this current year that you asked the question about, the other groups had step increases, and so folks like the interventionists and things like that don't get the benefit of any kind of a step increase. And there's been hard work by the superintendent and support services director to improve the expectations and the requirements to receive those roles. So, we think that these salaries are competitive in order to keep folks and attract folks.
Other questions? Our student members. Again.
Mobile device coordinator,
I
that
think we're going to
Chromebooks?
take shit for him.
Yes.
I think we're gonna
That's
take
Irene's
some flack
position.
for
That's
it.
what I thought, I wasn't sure.
It really, she does a lot more than just mobile device coordinator, but that's our brief
That's evident
term
by
for
her
it.
current
Yeah.
position right there.
And support in the library, and social media information, and photographer, and ADA compliance manager for the website. There's a multifaceted role.
To be honest, I'm not comfortable with this. I mean, just knowing, discussion-wise for teachers next year and the climate, I don't know. I mean, I'd love to, but I don't know. I think we might get a lot of flack for it. I don't know, because they're going to find out everything they can find out, every penny we spend. I just don't know.
What's the overall delta?
I mean, we're being scrutinized beyond belief.
Which is fine with me.
I don't know.
The teacher's cost of living is 2.25.
What was that?
The teacher's contract.
Well, that opens.
That's what we're
opens.
starting.
Yeah, that's.
Oh,
what
but
we're
you mean
starting.
but for next year?
But, I think like Karen said, none of these people benefit from any step.
They don't get
I
it.
know.
Well, just comparing, I mean, it's,
Yeah.
it's close.
I know.
Yeah, for next year, there are teachers, is it 2.25 there or 2.5 for next year?
Teachers are 2.25 for
2.5.
next year.
Yeah.
So it's
2.5.
in the area, plus without staff.
Yeah, without staff, yeah, they're getting staff,
Just
so,
trying to get a feel
yeah.
for how it compares.
Mhm.
So they're getting steps.
Okay, so let's put out, and then we'll go from there. Motion to approve the non-affiliated personnel compensation as presented. Is there a motion? I'm not hearing a motion. Okay.
What's our overall delta here?
The bottom line?
The
Yeah.
salary positions is 43,000. I have to calculate the hourly folks. I'll take.
Yeah, there's a lot of variation, but it's 43 for the salary.
Yeah.
You mean the difference between last year and the proposed?
Yes.
I don't know.
so if we do not make a motion or approve this as presented tonight, my understanding then it would go back to the superintendent, and for further review, the board comes back to us, correct? Or?
I mean, perhaps having a little more history on it, you know, like where we've been the last few years with increases
And these numbers in the budget we presented that was approved on, maybe not exactly, but this range was built into our budget, correct?
I built in a 2.5%.
Okay, so that was budgeted for and was approved by the town.
unbeknownst to us, though.
No, because we do that every year.
Well, I know,
Well,
but
so-
not this specifically. Again, this usually comes to the personnel committee so we can talk about it and get more data
Okay.
and things like that, so.
But in terms of budgeting, there are assumptions.
Well, yeah, we always
So
budget
we knew,
in
yes.
increases that we don't,
Yes.
haven't approved yet. That's,
Okay.
you have to, I mean,
Yeah.
or else where are you gonna get the money?
Yeah.
And I just, again, this is
Mhm.
for whatever value it is. I pulled up the CPI,
Do we have a
and
person here?
it basically goes from a 12-month history from October 17 to November to December to January of 18. It doesn't have anything more recent than that. And it's from 2.04%, get as high as 2.2, and 2.11 and 2.07. So marginally above 2%.
What data are you looking at?
The CPI for the last 12 months. So you're looking at kind of call it on average of that time period, 2.14, but again, it's a 4-month window of a rolling 12-month time period. So, you know, there's tell me that like October, November of 2016 were high CPI months, and then the rest of them were all much the same.
What's the information technician database person, just as part-time? Is that an hourly position or?
Yes, I'm just keeping that as a placeholder, since generally this is about people full-time or eligible for benefits, but that is someone who worked for the district for a very long time and is working remotely at an hourly agreed upon rate, and would have to be, we're paying very, very little for a lot of service that would cost a lot.
It's all the state reporting, federal reporting.
Okay. So it's an hourly position, part-time?
I pulled something else up, again, for whatever it's worth. This is from SHRM. 2018 salary forecast. In the United States, an average 3% pay increase is predicted by Korn Ferry, same as 2017.
3%.
Yeah.
So using the CPI average, when you say 2.1, and again, that is GWI, not including those that are on steps and contract, all that stuff. So what's an average step increase? 1%? On a kind of a general contract? So even if we look at the teachers, what's a step increase in percentage? Ballpark.
If I can get it.
I thought it was there, like in a 2.5 to 3.
2.5 to 3.
To the step increase.
Okay, so even at 2.5.
Yeah.
So that would go over
Yeah.
that 3% that they were saying is the average. So the CPI and a step.
Well,
So-
and that's part of what the finance problem is. It's the whole increase of the step and the wage is
Okay,
way
but
more
this,
than what, yeah.
so I'm trying
I know,
to just
this
put
isn't-
into
yeah.
perspective for this, that there is not steps.
Yeah.
So
Correct.
I think these numbers personally are well within appropriate ranges, not only for the climate, but for the jobs they're doing. So I will make a motion to approve the Non-affiliated personnel compensation as presented. Is there a second?
I'll make a second, so at least we get the motion.
Okay, thank you, Mark.
You're welcome.
There's the second. Now, any other further discussion?
I do want to
Comments?
clarify with Karen. So the, you said, I just want to make sure I heard what you said accurately. The total change of all these positions adds up to 43,000?
Only the salaried ones. I did not do the hourly
Okay.
ones.
Those three at the bottom, that was not
Correct.
included in that
There's
number.
11 people in the interventionist. They generally work, I just didn't have that total in my calculator. They generally work 6.5 to 7 hours a day, 190 days a year, but many of them work over the summer as well. For the,
So can you give me an estimate
All right.
of the total cost for those three categories?
Can you ballpark what that might come to?
Shoot, yeah.
Okay.
Because one of the things I calculated was if, again, just as an example, if you went from 2.5 to 2,
Mhm.
we're talking about $8,500 or something like that. So, you know, it's not a big number in the context of a $30 million budget.
Mhm.
That's actually right, just comparing 2.25.
But when you're looking at
2.5,
43,000, it's half a
$1,000,
teacher,
yeah.
you know.
And if it's in line, then
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
important.
Now, I will say, you know, because we've had this conversation a number of times about our current teacher population. We have a fairly high percentage that are at the top end of their step, so of the step structure. So they're not actually, they're just getting the
GWI.
increase. They're not really benefiting from the step change. And yeah, I don't know all the individuals, but there's some similarity to, I'll just say, I use the business manager and the facilities director, individuals who've been in our district for a while and would be similar to the long-term teachers.
Mhm.
The hourly salary, I would estimate to be about 430,000 next year, about 349,000 for the interventionists, about 54,600 for the, there's one individual that has a advanced certification, not quite a behavior specialist as would be above, and the high school security role is only about 24,000.
Okay.
Yeah, I just want to say something with these interventionists here. They're not paraeducators. They're highly trained and skilled in certain areas, and it avoids us from having to hire special education teachers. So our interventionists that's a pretty good deal to this district.
And their salaries are very competitive with the area and other regions?
No, we go through a lot of interventionists. We lose them to other positions. And it's kind of a unique role in that it's not a
other towns.
well, they go to private practices or things like that. They're not our paraeducators, they're not our teachers.
Yeah,
They're kind
no,
of
I know,
that
yeah.
in-between role that is a great bargain for us,
Yeah.
considering what we're asking them to do.
And if I could add, the IT director, the network supervisor, those roles plus the behavior role and the occupational therapist are all pretty recent hires, so that we did do a thorough market analysis of those positions because of needing to hire them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the facilities director, I would say that that's well below the average if we had to replace that position. And truly isn't that far over a custodian with overtime. And it's a managerial, time-consuming role that he's he's in. And myself, this is the first year that I passed the offer that I actually received a contract from another community a couple of years ago. So there is a market, and they all been compared to the market.
Okay.
I just, and this may not be exact, but based on you said 430 was the total cost for the other ones. So the raise roughly is about, I calculated 10,750.
For that kind of work.
For those individuals. So you're talking about a couple $1,000 if you were to say divide that by 5, right? So that's your couple of $1,000.
They're 11, right?
Yeah.
So if it's 10 grand, then it's
right.
That's 10 grand. I mean, it's not.
So that's basically where I'm landing is in the context of the overall dollars. You're talking about it's going from 2.5 to 2 is a little over $10,000 if I did all my math reasonably accurate. So we're not
Which I'm
talking
sure you
about a
did.
big number in the context of it.
Yep.
So basically have come to the conclusion I'm going to support this, but I do think it's important that we go through the mechanism that you discussed about having this go through the personnel committee and having it vetted and talked about there. Obviously we'll have to put it in the context of where we go next year, whether it's relative to teacher contracts or any other contracts. And to your point, relative to the environment that we're in.
Well, no, I'm.
It all has to be weighed and considered.
No, I agree. I agree with you, and I'm kind of currently grappling with this thing too, because it is all contextual. It's we can't anticipate what the teachers' negotiation is going to be. We have some ideas, but that's going to be something for the future. Everyone on this list, as far as I know, is well deserving of this. So that's not in question. We can't pick and choose, and the numbers they were carried in the budget, and they're small in comparison. So I guess what I was trying to figure out is what are the optics on that? I guess I landed on I'm okay with approving it and maybe taking a hit on well, why would you let that go? So these are good things that deserve to be supported. These people, they do good work, and they deserve to have an opportunity to actually have a cost of living increase.
Yeah. Well, and I would argue with anyone to say, hey, if you have an employee who's doing a good job and productive, a 2.5% increase is not like reaching for the stars.
Not at all. Not at all.
Okay. Other comments? Then we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that was unanimous. I think with that comment, then we just make sure it goes through personnel then. Whew.
Oh, it's such a lighthearted meeting.
I know, up, down here, emotional here. Oh, board retreat. Okay, we have a date.
Do we have a date?
We have a date.
Date.
Location to be determined, but we have a date. We have Monday, July 23rd. That was those that were able to respond. I think unfortunately there was one that was not able to be there that evening. So we'll get location out, we'll figure that out, we'll do something fun. We do have a couple topics and the reading.
In your blue folder, there's a summer reading that if you have an opportunity to read it in advance, it may make the retreat discussion beyond things money.
Because we need more of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you've tapped it out tonight.
Is there, because I know usually we have the attorney come and talk about, or not, we don't have to with this one.
No, we're not gonna do that again.
I think you,
Alternate,
there's
every
enough
other.
to focus on in your packets.
Okay, so then,
We
Mary's
should do
gonna
kind of the
bring you
annual
some.
FOI thing now.
well, yeah, maybe every other, because it's the same people.
Yeah, it's the same people.
There's an agenda.
But has
in-
he done that with, has
Yes.
he done that with this?
Yeah, you did the
I'm sorry,
FOI.
at the
Yes.
at the beginning, right?
Yeah.
There was a session with our attorney.
Okay, I'm sorry, they all kind of blend together.
Yeah. Okay.
There's an agenda in there. It has some discussion on the readings. Mary's going to give you some data from this year. I think we've got an action-packed night already planned for you.
Okay, good.
It'll be fun.
What's the normal timing of that?
Well, that's what I was gonna ask. Is there a time, since it's it's a Monday night meeting, but is there a time that's good that we should start for everyone?
Whatever we should start, 4 or 5?
I think you've started no earlier than 5.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's
5,
been the
yeah.
earliest.
Yeah.
I mean, so,
It'll include dinner.
5 to 9.
I think we need to be cognizant of people getting out of work.
I know.
Yeah.
So we'll stick with, if we've done it at 5 before, let's start with that for now, and as we get closer, we'll determine.
Can that work with your schedule?
Yeah, it's fine, really, realistically, anything's fine as long as I know in advance.
Yeah.
I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Okay. NEASC. We
At your
have the
places
reports.
is the report. We're not going to give you any details tonight. Frank and the steering committee will come back. I know it's a lot to read, but if you just go through the 7 sections and read the commendations and recommendations, keep in mind the commendations are wonderful, but as you look at the recommendations, NEAS calls them recommendations, but the school has to address every single one in the next 2 to 5 years.
Mandatory recommendations?
So make a note on this, because I went through. There are 7 pages I want you to look at first.
Okay.
24, 34, 44, 60, 79, 93, and 105.
Bingo.
Bingo. Those are the accommodations.
24, 34, 44, 60, 79, 93, 105.
Yes, those are the commendation pages, and I think you're going to be very happy with what was said about the school and the people in it.
And then you'll get a follow report from Frank and the steering committee on their impression of it. And obviously there's, as you read the recommendations, there are certainly budget implications over the next 2 to 5 years to address some of those issues.
Anything you want to add on that, Frank?
No, I was on the commendation side, it's light reading. So I mean, truly, the staff that worked so hard, and my commendations to Assistant Principal Dalton, and of course to my predecessor, Mr. Fiddler. There's just a tremendous amount of great stuff here. So I would echo those pages that you shared with the fellow board members. It's going to be good, and I think the recommendations will definitely guide our work over the next few years, and stuff that between the chairs, Regina and Melissa and Mike and I have already talked. They're not tremendous surprises, but it will really help inform a lot of work. And as Smith said, there will be some budget implications. So I look forward to further discussions with you.
Good. Future business. I don't want to talk about snow days now.
You did not have a heat day
It's
today.
96 degrees.
We did not have a
I
meeting
know,
day this
we're
year.
not talking about snow. So, PD days, I think Mary talked a little about that, and we'll be addressing it as we move on, right?
Can I just ask a quick question?
Yes.
And that's just Paula. Does anybody feel that today was an unbearable situation for our students?
How was center? That's usually the worst.
Yeah, so usually the hot box.
Luckily, there's some units up on the 3rd floor, so that kept cool. We had popped some doors on the 2nd floor in the tower that kept airflow. And we also set up kind of a rotating cooling schedule in our library. So teachers can sign up for a half-hour block in the library, and many teachers utilize that.
Nice.
But overall, people felt that it was a comfortable day. Not, any worse in recent memory than the beginning or end of the year past. So.
Yeah, I mean, I would think if you have several days in a row and the air sort of builds up in the building,
Yeah, that's
you
when it
really
gets-
get rid of it, that's where it becomes a problem.
Yeah. I think
So,
it's better tomorrow.
okay, good.
And the middle school didn't have their field day, which I think was a good call.
They pushed it back.
Kids up, yeah.
Oh, they were supposed to have it today?
Yeah.
Yeah, for the sixth graders, but they pushed it, it's Wednesday now or something like that?
Yeah, we had a built-in day for any kind of, weather related issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just made sense.
Yeah.
Let them watch movies or something.
It's falling over.
Thanks.
Okay.
Okay, then the other personnel action motion to extend the superintendent's contract.
So moved.
Do we have a motion? And I think we had a unanimous second. How's that, Rosemary? Get those notes?
Pick a name, any name.
So we wholeheartedly decided he's not leaving. He's stuck with us.
Must have been in China.
Unless he gets lost in China. Yes. So we are happy to extend his contract. The 1 year, which to have a date, will be 21, June 30, 2021 will be the end contract date. Motion second, vote.
Aye.
Aye. Yes. No audience. Calendar events. We've gone through the calendar. We see we have a busy, short period of time here. So, motion to adjourn. Mark, second. Joanne. Good night, everyone.
Everybody enjoy the month of July.
Yes.
We won't see each other as much.
Yes,
Yeah.
July 23rd, July 23rd.
Would you sign the